Hello, everyone, and welcome to the February 2016 aEEG Q&A call. And I apologize, this is a few days late. I have been out and about traveling, and anyways, I just wanted to say thanks for coming, and it's so great to have you as part of our aEEG online community. And I'm kind of excited to share a few things with you on this presentation, and let's just dive right in, okay? So I'm gonna turn off the camera and switch to the slides for you. So here we go. Anyways, I hope you all are doing great. Please let me know if there's anything that I can do to help. We have our face group online. We have these calls where you can join or send me questions ahead of time. And I would love to get more of you involved. I'd love to have you share a case that you've had, a really interesting case, a time when aEEG is really valuable to you. So anyways, I just invite you to step up and participate more. We all learn from each other, and it is an ongoing, education for all of us. So anyways, let's just get into the slides for today. If you are wanting to view these full screen, be sure you click the maximize button, and let's go. So I wanted to share with you a little bit of my latest teaching adventure. As you know, I do a lot of globe trotting for fun, but I also do a fair amount of teaching as well. And I just returned from Thailand. This is why we're a little delayed in getting this stuff out to you. Things got a little backlog. So it was a 2-week adventure, teaching and fun adventure. And this is a group of neonatologists and fellows in Thailand. And we were there doing 3 workshops in 3 cities, and it was amazing. I think we trained about 300 people. So anyways, I started out in Bangkok for 2 workshops and then flew up to Chiang Mai for another. And this is my amazing friends and team that I was with. Dr. Abbott Laptuk, as well as Dr. Guillermo Santana and Dr. Lena Shalak, all huge innovators and leaders in the area of hypothermia, asphyxia, and aEEG. So it's fun to be part of such a team from all over the U.S., as well as Dr. Guillermo is actually in Canada. So we're a globe-trotting team, and we've worked together a lot, and I just love them. And this was us in the grand entrance of the Children's Hospital in Bangkok, and you can see it's a brand new unit and hospital, and it was gorgeous. So we had, like I said, an opportunity to teach a 4-hour workshop in the morning, and then we did a hands-on in the afternoon. And the crazy team up in the upper right-hand corner are the fellows that attended our workshop, and the facilitator, Dr. Chachai, there in the front. So she's trained from McGill and went on back to her hometown of Bangkok and then organized this amazing group to come. But the fellows there are so much fun, and we had a great time. In addition to all of the work they made us do, we actually had a few days of fun where we had some amazing networking dinners. We did some sightseeing, as well as made it to the top of one of the biggest buildings in Bangkok and saw so many beautiful palaces. But the highlight, I have to admit for myself, was really getting kissed by an elephant when we were in Chiang Mai. So anyways, it was quite a trip and really fun to be sharing the knowledge that I have. I mean, I know I get to share it online, and just fun to share it in person and to run some workshops and to really realize how committed people are all over the world caring for babies' brains. So anyways, I thought I would just share a few of these quick little snapshots that the organizers sent to us, as well as some of my own little selfies, and just to share what an amazing opportunity aEEG has provided me, but you know, what an amazing tool it is for all of us in the nursery as well. So for today, I wanted to talk about some of the options that we have. So this is a question that I actually get quite frequently, is like, which device to use? And I think there is no right answer. I think there is a right answer for your unit. And just wanted to also go through a few little bits of terminology so that you're aware of some of the different words you might hear. So the first word you might hear is, or first initials that you might hear is CFM, or Cerebral Function Monitor. So Cerebral Function Monitor was just a generic term that was originally coined in the literature and by the inventors of the device itself. So it was a cerebral function monitor. It really described what it did. And the cerebral function monitor displayed amplitude integrated EEG trends. And I think that these words are really pretty much have become synonymous, but they really are different in the sense that aEEG is really just a trend of compressed EEG data, which can be collected on any number of EEG monitors. So aEEG, or amplitude integrated EEG, really just refers to a trend. And we have other kinds of trends in EEG. We have DSA or CSA, or we might have suppression indexes and other things that are just ways to take the massive amount of data that we can collect from EEG devices and make their bedside display more easy to use. So anyway, so aEEG is just one of many trends, and I include this picture here because this is a software algorithm that plays on one of our full EEG machines that allows us to, at the bedside, see aEEG trending even when we have full montage EEG running. So anyways, I just want to clarify that because some people do use them interchangeably, but CFM really was originally talking about the device itself, not really brand specific, although there was a company that used that initials in one of their product names. But CFM is really the device, that single channel device that was originally invented, whereas aEEG is really referring to the trend itself that is generated from the EEG. So let's talk about the three kinds of devices that you might consider for your unit. And I like to talk about this because I think it's important when we talk about bringing new devices into the hospital about what options are available and what you might already own. So I think that that's also an important thing to think about. So the easiest and the most simple devices are standalone aEEG machines. All they do is collect a limited channel of EEG, so either 1, 2, or 3 channels, and then display the EEG and the aEEG bands that coordinate together, or correspond together. So they are standalone. Some of them are getting a little more sophisticated where you can now have at least remote viewing of these, but that requires a fair amount of commitment and investment by your hospital to get the IT shared folders and firewalls and those kinds of things going so that they are viewable. None of the current standalone aEEG devices have video, so you are limited to what you see as what you get, and that has its limitations, and I'm sure we've all experienced that as well. So standalone, doesn't record video, may or may not be network accessible, and certainly is limited only to the channels that you can plug in. So probably maximum 3 channels on most of these. So then second, we have an EEG device. So whether it's your from your neurodiagnostics department that you use on a baby who you're doing full monitoring on, or whether it's a device that you purchase yourself and have hanging out in your unit and teach your staff how to boot it up and get going. But embedded over top of this EEG monitor is software that then can transform that EEG signal into amplitude integrated EEG or aEEG trending. So there are several options on the market for this. There are a few that I have used personally, and just not to name names really, but just to know that they're out there and becoming more and more widely available. So really it is, if you own an EEG device already in your hospital, instead of buying a standalone aEEG, perhaps you can invest instead in some software that would then transform your EEG monitor into an aEEG monitor and serve two purposes. So from a resource utilization point of view, really high value, high usability, but if it's a shared device, it may not always be available to you. So, those are some of the cautions in sharing, but something to definitely keep in mind. The third option is multimodal, and there are only a couple of these devices on the market now. And again, I won't really name names, but they are, if you Google multimodal EEG NICU, you can find them. But basically, multimodal means that in addition to displaying data from the EEG signal, they can also either collect, some of them collect the data as in replacement of a physiologic monitor, so it displays heart rate, but also collects the heart rate. Some of them, you still use your other standard devices to collect the data, but you pipe that data in to these devices so that you can have synchronized data review. So for example, maybe you have a cooling baby where you have EEG, aEEG running, but you also have near-infrared spectroscopy or NIRS. You have your cooling blanket running, and you have your physiologic ECG blood pressure saturation monitor. So it is nice sometimes in review to be able to have all of that data in one place. And these, especially if you're doing any kind of research, this makes it amazing. So a multimodal device is going to give you the ability maybe to be collecting that data all from one device, maybe heart rate, saturations, those kinds of things. But if nothing else, allows you to plug in your devices for data management and review and time synchronize. So really nice. I just was working with a cooling baby 2 days ago, and we had our multimodal device on that baby being monitored, so we could look at the trend of temperature, we could look at the trend of heart rate and blood pressure, and we could be looking at some of the other oxygen saturations, brain oxygen saturations as well. So that was collecting all of that data, and then we had our full EEG monitor going as well with our aEEG. So we actually had two devices, but we could, in some situations, actually run our aEEG off that as well. So really three options. Number one, standalone. What you see is what you get. It monitors usually 1 or 3 channels and shows just the aEEG band. Most likely you're going to have your NICU staff applying that standalone aEEG, where when you get into the kind of mixed ground is when you have your video EEGs or your conventional EEGs that have an overlay software where you're able to see your aEEG. And in some hospitals, they have dedicated EEG machines just for the NICU. Their NICU staff start those in the 2-channel mode, and then when the EEG tech comes in, they complete the montage application of sensors and move on from there. Multimodal can depend on whether or not you're using it for EEG, aEEG, or data migration and synchronization. Again, can be used by EEG techs or by NICU staff, just depending on how you set up your workflow in your nursery. So just as a little quick summary, again, just looking at the different options available. So we've got our standalone where you have 1 to 3 channels applied by the NICU, full montage available, no, videos, no, typically, and then remote viewing may or may not be available. You've got your full EEG where you're able to do 1 or up to 12 channels depending on how much you want. But for aEEG, we usually only do 1 to 3 channels. The NICU staff or a tech could apply it, the montage to escalate up into a more comprehensive study available, yes. Video EEG definitely available, and remote viewing always available on these kinds of devices, which has its advantages of getting your neuro team able to consult with you more easily. The multimodals, depending on if you're using it for EEG or aEEG, can do one or more channels, can again be placed by the NICU staff, typically how it is done. Could be used for full montage EEG if your techs and your neurophysiology, neurodiagnostics team agrees. Definitely has the availability of video and has remote capability. So this is just to show some of the different brands of devices that I'm working with currently. So we have our Brains BRM3, which is just showing a single channel down there on the bottom left. And then we have a full montage EEG neon codon where we have 2 channels of EEG showing with the 2 channels of, 2 channels of aEEG, 2 channels of EEG, as well as the, I think that's a spectral array or a CSA band. And then at the very top, we see the Moberg CNS, where this is a multimodal device, and currently it's on just the aEEG screen. So, you know, all these screens look a little different, but they all use the same voltage scale. So aEEG voltage scale is fixed scale. So we know that the bottom margin is always 0 microvolts. We know we have our 5 and 10, and that's a linear compressed part of the tracing, and then we have from 10 and more in amplitudes, and that's going to be a logarithmic part of our scale. So it doesn't really matter which device you use as long as they're using the same scale and the same processing steps to create that aEEG. Then you can use that trend at the bedside, and that's really the crux of it all, is to have that available for you. This is from the Moberg device, again, the multimodal option, and this is courtesy of Moberg Research. They sent this to me, and you can see at the top here it has the 2 traces of aEEG, and then you see that we have our INVO SNEERS monitor on, where you see 66%, and then you have your SpO2 coming from your Philips device at 100%. You've got your mean arterial pressure there of 30, and then you have the patient temp, and that can be derived either from your Philips device or from your Blanketrol device. So this is a way that you could see all of these trends all in one place. So kind of a cool integration, which I kind of like. So that was just my quick little wrap up, and just to give you a little overview about which devices and what are the different options out there. Because what I find is once you have one device in your unit, you're probably going to need to buy a second. And some of these devices are getting to the end of their life, and we're not able to order what we once had in our units. And so we're going to need to know what options are available, consider where you are with your practice. Certainly, most of us start out at a single or 2-channel, 3-channel device. But then as we become more and more savvy with using aEEG, we see the benefit of having remote viewing, or we see the benefit of having video on top of that, and our staff is more used to having aEEG in the unit, and it's easy to kind of move up to maybe one of those more sophisticated devices that has more bells and whistles, because you understand the basics of aEEG from your standalone device. So again, I just encourage you to at least evaluate the options, consider them, and then make the choice that makes sense for you. And I'm always happy to chat with you about these pros and cons in more detail. And the other piece I think is important is to think about the support that you can get. You know, what kind of clinical support, what kind of technical support, how responsive and receptive are those vendors to receiving calls from you, and how much personal attention do you get? I think those are also really important when you're considering your purchase decision. So anyways, I just wanted to do a quick overview of that. I hope to see some of you online live on March 28th. That is our next Q&A call. So until then, have a great day, and be well and take care.